Good morning again, New Brunswick. This is Charlie Cradaville, and we are here for a special edition of the New Brunswick Today show, coming at you live from the Hidden Grounds Espresso Bar here on Easton Avenue. Come on by and you can say hi to us and some of the candidates that want to represent you in the next election. So it's an honor to be joined by Mr. Roger Daly, who is a former Middlesex County freeholder, former Superior Court judge here in Middlesex County, and you're running to try to get back on that freeholder board. So thanks for joining us, first of all.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
Tell us, why do you want to get back into county politics and be a freeholder yet again?
Well, I guess it really goes back to why I originally ran as a freeholder back in 1990. I grew up in Middlesex County, and I consider it my home. I'm very proud of being a resident here, and I'm just tired of the excessive spending and the wasteful spending of the all Democratic freeholder board. I've watched it over the past 21 years. I was the last Republican to be on this board, and over that 6 years that I spent as a Republican freeholder, we saved the county probably close to $500 million. And so I think it's time for someone to get there and take a good look at what the Democrats have been doing for the last 21 years.
Yeah, so for some of our viewers who might not even know what a freeholder is, there's 7 of them. They represent the county. They're elected in a county-wide election. And like you said, you were the last non-Democrat to be on that board. You were elected in 1990 and again in 93, and then you left to become a judge. You said over the last 21 years you've noticed the one-party system kind of not serving your interests as a resident. What types of things would you change if you got back in there? What things would you tackle?
Well, I think the first thing that I would do is take a real close look at the Middlesex County Improvement Authority. Back in 1990, that was when the Improvement Authority was actually created, and it was one employee. It was
Richard Pucci,
Democratic Mayor of Monroe, Richard Pucci, who they basically created that Improvement Authority for him. Well, don't get me wrong about the Improvement Authority. I think it's an important function, and it was designed for so all the towns within the county could pool their applications to buy certain capital goods like cars and different things like that, and they could buy them in bulk and they could get a lower interest rate. That's what it was created for. But what the Middlesex County freeholders have done is they've created a separate government, a government that now has a $50 million budget itself. They transferred the Roosevelt Hospital out there, they transferred the golf courses out there, and they transferred the recycling. All of those things should actually be under the freeholder board, because by doing that, they've created a duplication of services, extra employees, extra department heads, and as you say, it's a $50 million budget that they have. I visited Monmouth County. They have an improvement authority in Monmouth County. They only spend $37,000 to run their improvement authority. They have every town in the county engaged in buying things through the improvement authority, but all of the services and everything come through the freeholder board, and saving a lot of money.
Now, you are a Republican.
Yes.
The president is a Republican. What are your views on him? Do you think he should be impeached and removed? Are you concerned about the indictments that came down this week?
Absolutely not. I mean, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty. I think that Donald Trump has been good for the United States of America. The economy is booming. We've got a couple $1 trillion more in the stock market. The unemployment is down, and he wants to put the United States of America first. I really can't understand what the hostility towards a person who wants America first when all other countries around the world, they're trying to put themselves first. So no, I support Donald Trump, and I think when history is actually written, Trump is going to go down as a really fine president.
Okay, and how do you feel about Governor Christie?
Well, Governor Christie has some weaknesses, but I want to say I'm thankful to God for Governor Christie, because at least he put brakes on the outrageous spending that was going on while the Democrats controlled both houses and the governor. He put the 2% cap on the on spending at the municipal level. He put the 2% cap on the arbitrations. Those arbitrations were killing us. I mean, they were going. The arbitration with the police and fire. The arbitrator never ruled over a 20-year period in favor of the towns. Sometimes they were giving 4 or 5 even higher raises. So what Governor Christie did was he slowed down the spending, and if he hadn't been there to do that, our situation would probably be closer to a place like Connecticut, where Hartford is going into bankruptcy. Maryland is already in serious problems. So Christie, with he made some mistakes with the bridge and trying to run for president. But in terms of government, he basically stopped the excessive spending, and he should be. And when history is actually written, he's going to be given credit for that.
And so it's safe to assume you're supporting his lieutenant governor to replace him.
Actually, this man Murphy kind of frightens me, because at least Lieutenant Governor Guadagno has said she's going to try to stop spending. She's going to try to control the size of government. Whereas it's frightening for me to listen to a man who has already promised to raise our taxes $2 billion. If he's telling us he's going to raise them $2 billion, it'll probably be $5 billion by the time he's finished. So the time has come for the state government to stop spending and wasting money. And Lieutenant Governor Guadagno says she's going to try to do that. The government can be almost, it's very difficult to control the size of government. As a matter of fact, probably the one thing you can do is just sort of limit the size of it. It's almost as inherent within the government as it grows. I don't want to say it's like a cancer, because the government does a lot of good things too, and we need it. But unless it's checked. So the thought of having a Democratic governor, Democratic Senate, and a Democratic Assembly is really frightening, because Democrats controlled the Trenton for the whole decade between 2002 and 2012, and they're the ones that got us into trouble. It was when they passed that pension plan in 2002 that really got our pension in trouble. So I'm really hopeful, and I'm actually praying that Lieutenant Governor Guadagno will win on Tuesday.
Okay, so that sounds like a yes. You're going to be supporting her now. You know the area very well, having been on the Freeholder board before. You're from East Brunswick, right?
Well, I grew up in Old Bridge.
Okay, grew up in Old Bridge, live in East Brunswick. Tell our audience, what, if you're elected to the Freeholder board, what types of changes might we see in New Brunswick, in the city environment? What types of things do you think New Brunswick needs, and what can the county do to help?
Well, actually, I am on New Brunswick tomorrow. I just spent the last 2 years as chairman, interim chairman of New Brunswick Tomorrow, and I got involved in New Brunswick Tomorrow because I was a juvenile delinquency judge, and I worked with New Brunswick Tomorrow to get programs to help the young people in New Brunswick, because a very high percentage of the children that were coming to my juvenile delinquency court actually came from New Brunswick. So I've been working with New Brunswick Tomorrow, trying to develop programs not only for the juveniles, but for health programs and different things that help the what we would call the citizens that are actually in need. So I've done that for over 12 years, and I'll continue to. I'm no longer the chairman. I'm the vice chair of New Brunswick Tomorrow. So I'll continue to work through New Brunswick Tomorrow, and on the board I will through the Human Services Department, I will make every effort to provide services to the children here and the people that need services. I'm very familiar with New Brunswick, having spent my law career here, having gone to Rutgers graduate, and having been on the board already. So New Brunswick is very important to me. So those are the things that I would try to do.
Well, thank you very much, Roger, for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Roger Daly, who wants to be your freeholder, Middlesex County. That election is on Tuesday, November 7th. We're also joined by his running mates, and we'll be right back with one of them in just a minute. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a minute. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
Good morning again, New Brunswick, Charlie Cradaville, and we are still here at Hidden Grounds talking with candidates who are running for the county-wide offices. These are seats on the Freeholder board here in Middlesex County, so people in all 25 towns in the county are going to be able to vote in these races, and we're now joined by another person who wants to be your freeholder, Mr. Mina Colta. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me here, Charlie.
Of course. So tell me, this is your first time running for office?
First time outside of school running for office.
Right. Oh, so you served in your school?
Yeah, I was mostly in student council in high school and student government in college. So.
Okay. And where'd you go to high school? Old Bridge?
No, I was actually a resident of Brooklyn at the time, Brooklyn, New York, and I finished high school there. And during my college years, I moved to Old Bridge, New Jersey. I was back in 2005.
Okay. And so this is your first time running for a political office?
Yeah.
Tell us, what made you want to do that? Why do you want to be on the Freeholder board?
Well, why I wanted to be in politics was something I wanted to do when I was younger. I wanted to actually serve people. I do that already. I serve youth groups, and I've served thousands of youth in my community. At least I can take credit for that in conventions and church events and other things. Why I wanted to be a freeholder is because I'm watching the political climate all over the country, and I see counties and state as a way where I can serve people, a large group of people, and be able to enact change and better life for people here in the country. Because I think we live in the most amazing country in the world, and actually our county is probably one of the best counties in the world, most diverse. There's so much to do here. I love this county, and I just want this county to have a better future than what I can imagine would be its future if the usual politics continue here in the county.
So you are running as a Republican. What if you actually get in? What are going to be your priorities? You're going to be outnumbered on this Democrat Freeholder board. What are the things you're going to make your priorities to try to actually get done if you get in?
Well, being outnumbered is probably the most correct statement. I mean, that's one thing we have to address. Being on the board, are they gonna allow us to actually use freeholder powers to do anything? I mean, the rest of the board will probably put walls between in front of us so we don't get much done. But really, my main concerns are having a smaller government. We have a really big government here in Middlesex.
So what parts of the government are you going to slash?
The Improvement Authority is like my number one thing. I think the Improvement Authority has the golf courses under it. For instance, I think I've talked about that before. Why are the golf courses under the Improvement Authority? Why did they have to hire people in the Improvement Authority when we already have people in the county that were hired to take care of the parks in the county under a different agency? So things like this, that we can shrink government. There's also offices that have a lot of people working in them, and some of the services are being duplicated. I don't know all the details, but I can tell you this: the Improvement Authority is one of the major examples of duplication of services in this county. And if we stop all the duplication services, we'll shrink the county, and we'll cut salaries. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna get rid of people, Charlie, so there's no mistake. No, I'm saying that if a job retires, a person retire their job with it.
So you'll shrink the county workforce through attrition.
Yeah, basically. Only the jobs we don't need, but the things we need, we keep. Because we don't want to take services away from people here in the county. We want to make sure we provide those services to them here.
Tell me this, are there any services or parts of the county government that you would strengthen or add resources toward?
So one thing is our education. I've been hearing a lot from students and teachers in the Middlesex County College here. That's one of our responsibilities. We need to make it the best. We should ensure that Middlesex County College is the best, so people want to live here and want to send their kids to it. And give the best education. We need the best teachers, the best facilities. We need to make sure we empower that. Education is important for people in this country and in our county, especially. We want to make sure everyone has a good education, is given a chance for that good education.
So do you support making it free? Middlesex County College?
I will tell you, right now the government has plans. I was in college, so I know they have ways of supporting people that can't afford to go to college. But those who can't afford to go to college, I actually would ask that they pay for college, and there's a reason for that. Because if you decide to make it free for everyone, it's going to hit the taxpayers, and then unfortunately, most of the middle class gets taxed, the entire middle class. So you're going to put the burden on the middle class. How about if someone has money? How about if a family has enough money to send their kids to college, to a university, to a grad program, to medical school, and we're going to give it to them for free? That wouldn't be fair to the taxpayers, who are going to be burdened by all these taxes, because we're giving them free education. We're giving everyone free education at that point. So I would support people who don't have money, who are underprivileged, who want a chance to get out of their situation. I would support giving them incentives to go to college, and one of them is helping them with their tuition.
So, tell me, you've made a lot of statements, you made a lot of hay over the county's sanctuary policy. They say it's not a sanctuary policy, but whatever it's called, they've taken efforts to try to protect the county's immigrant population from ICE. And they say it's to limit the liability so that they're not violating people's civil rights by detaining people who they don't necessarily have the right to detain. You have called out this policy and said it's endangering the public.
Yes.
Can you explain your views on this and why you think that this policy is bad for the county?
So a couple of things. The first thing is, the reason why I think it's bad for the county is because, for instance, the example of the 36 people that were released. Now, yes, everyone can tell me that some of them aren't violent crimes, some of them were, small offenses, but they released 36 people. The county did. And when they did that,
the county jail releases people every day.
Yeah, but they released them without notifying ICE or without holding them on detainers for ICE. That's not the only issue here. The real issue is, this is a federal problem. We shouldn't be doing it on county or state level. We should be going to our congressmen and our senators and telling them to reform immigration law. Okay, and I will tell you right now, the immigration laws need to be reformed. Okay, they're old, they're archaic, and no one's doing anything about them. And we have a problem here. We have illegal immigrants, and I'm not saying take all the illegal immigrants and deport them. Definitely not. I'm saying if there's illegal immigrants here that are criminals, we should notify ICE. We should tell ICE that someone committed a crime and he doesn't belong in this country. I'm not saying go and get any illegal immigrants out of their homes or split up families. I'm just saying the people who are here illegally, rather than trying to conform with society, they're committing crimes, and we need to have those people removed. That's what I'm saying. That's my view. I will tell you, it puts.
But isn't it in this country? Isn't it supposed to be innocent until proven guilty?
Yeah, you are.
Right. So you're talking about the 36 individuals that ICE boasted about arresting a week or two ago. Not all of them were guilty of crimes. Some of them were just.
So in my opinion,
we're charged.
My opinions, if that, I will tell you right now, I'm not running on a federal level. You know that, Charlie. So I really have no say. But I would really come up with a solution for that. I think Congress should come up with a solution for that if they're not convicted, because you're right, they are innocent until proven guilty. But again, the county did this to supersede the government, honestly, in my opinion. So my whole stance is, it does put us a little bit at risk, especially with the ones that were on the list that had previous convictions. And they even made it clear in that policy, Charlie. They said if you don't have a first or second degree charge, they're not going to report you to ICE. But there's a lot of crimes that are not first and second degree charges that they're letting these people slide on and letting them back on the streets.
They're not letting them slide. They still have to face the music for the charge.
No, I understand that. But they're not facing all the music for the charge.
Well, they're facing just as much as any American citizen would.
Okay.
Now, what would you say to the family of someone who was one of those 36 who hasn't been convicted of any crime? One of those people who has a civil immigration case and got snatched up, whether it's at their house or at their job or got pulled over or whatever, but somebody who's not guilty of anything yet, except for maybe a civil immigration violation, what would you say?
Crime makes a big difference. What crime did he commit? Getting pulled over? I don't think that's a crime. Okay, everyone have gotten pulled over before. Okay, but I think the crime makes a big difference. Okay, the crime they're caught for.
But some of these people haven't been found guilty. They've just, they've been charged. But just like if you got behind the wheel of a car and were drunk driving, you got pulled over, you would be arrested, you would be processed.
Yeah, honestly, and I would keep them if it was. Again, I'm not a congressman or a senator, but if it was, a choice I would make, I would rather keep them in prison till their case is over, and if they're not guilty, just let them back out. If they are guilty, send them back.
So you think somebody gets arrested for a DUI, they should spend the next several months?
That's not a violent crime, Charlie. I did make it very clear about violent crimes. My issue is violent crimes: assault, child molestation, trafficking. Those are, to me, are violent crimes. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a DUI or someone smoking pot on the street. No, please do not.
Okay, but that's what ICE is talking about. I mean, some of these 36 people.
That's fine. My views are not 100% with ICE.
So
my views are not 100% with ICE, and they're not 100% with any politician in DC. My views are my own. Okay, and I hold to what I'm saying. When I say that the policy they passed puts us in danger, I mean it, because there are violent criminals that will get released into the streets, and they, to me, are a threat. They're a threat to me, my family, and my neighbors. Okay, I don't think that the Board of Freeholders should have passed any policy. They should have went and told everyone in the county.
Because if you were in charge, you would have the policy be, we honor all detainer requests. That would be your policy, right?
Yes, because again, I would tell people that are coming to ask us to pass a policy, please go to your congressmen and senators. I'll be happy to go with you, and we can go tell them to please reform the immigration law. That's why we elect congressmen and senators. We elect them to make these laws, and they should be doing something. People, unfortunately, rather than going to them, they're sitting back making sanctuary counties, cities, and even states now.
Well, the county has to decide what to do, whether or not to honor the request. Counties have been sued before and lost for holding people at the request of ICE. So what would you do when the county gets sued for holding somebody who just got a DUI?
Do you think I can't sue the county if one of my friends or family got injured by an illegal immigrant that they let back out on the street? You think I can't sue the county for putting me in danger? It could work both ways, right?
I think you could sue the county. I think you'd have a much smaller chance of success with that type of a lawsuit.
Okay, well, that's where our opinions differ, Charlie.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, when somebody's been imprisoned and held longer than they would have normally been because a federal agency basically asked the county to do a favor for them and hold on to somebody longer than they would have been held, that's putting the county in a situation where they're liable.
Actually, I don't like the 48-hour detainer. I think if ICE wants them, they come and pick them up right away, and there's 72 hours that they're allowed to be held by law. I think our Bill of Rights only allows the government to hold us for 48 to 72 hours.
What Bill of Rights is that?
I have to check, but I believe our rights, we're not supposed to be detained more than 48 hours without seeing a judge for bail or to be released. I might be wrong. I just, I believe,
basically what ICE is asking for is an extra 48 hours. You're saying you don't support their detainer request.
No, I would support the detainer request, but it has to be done while they're being held before bail. I think that if they want to...
But that's not what the detainer request is. The detainer request is asking for an extra 48 hours.
I actually question that. I don't support the freeholders. I asked them these questions. I asked them, are we holding them for 48 hours extra? Because our rights really, we're not... I have to check this, and I think you should too, Charlie. I think we're not supposed to be held in jail without seeing a judge for more than 72 hours if we're indicted.
There was a bail reform. It's not indictments yet, but when you're first arrested and processed, there's a bail reform. Now they don't have bail anymore, really, and it's
they don't, because the bail reform.
And they do have a judge do a central judicial processing.
That we should see a judge right away.
But ICE is asking for an extra 48 hours, and
again, I would contact my senator and congressman because I'm against it, and I would ask him to change those rules.
But so you're basically more or less siding with the county now. You're saying
I'm siding with ICE.
But the county's saying we're not going to hold them for the extra 48 hours. Which is it? Do you want them to be held for the extra 48 hours? Because that's what ICE
yes,
wants.
until immigration law is changed. Yes, I do.
Okay, so you do want people to be held
yes, until our
longer than they would have
yes.
normally for an extra up to 48 hours as a favor to ICE. You think
Not
the county
as a
should be
favor,
doing
but
that?
as in a way to follow federal law and work with a federal agency. ICE's job is to protect us at the end of the day. Don't quote me on this, but I don't believe that ICE is going out of their way to make people suffer or hurt people or families. I think they're just trying to protect the public because they're trained to do that. Okay, so for now, until congressmen and senators reform our federal laws, our immigration laws, I think we should honor ICE's request, and I think the county should dispose of their policy.
So you're back. You would say honoring all detainer requests,
Yeah.
even when they're not signed by a federal judge, even when it's just the officers asking for essentially a favor from the county, asking the county to hold somebody longer than they normally would be held. You support that?
Yes, I until the congressmen and senators, they're asking for that because they were allowed to ask for that. They were allowed to by their supervisors, their superiors. They're allowed to go and ask the counties for that.
Right.
No one said they're not allowed to. So why don't we go to Congress and Senate and have them define all that and fix all that and give us...
Well, because you're running for Freeholder, I want to know, what are you going to do about the situation that exists today that you've been very vocal about?
I'm very vocal, and I think I'll be honest with you. I know you don't agree with me on this topic, and I'm going to be honest with you. The 36 people that were released, in my opinion, should not have been released, Charlie. If even 80 or 90% of them are guilty of their crimes, then that would be not only a huge embarrassment. Why would people want to live in Middlesex County? Why would you tell people, hey, we're gonna put you in danger? That's what this policy does. This policy puts those people in danger. And I know you're not going to agree about it, but this policy does put those people in danger. And I don't need to wait for a case because a prosecutor. I don't need to wait for their cases to finish because a prosecutor usually brings indictments forward when he has enough evidence to convict.
These folks are not indicted in most cases. They've just been arrested. There hasn't even been a grand jury or an indictment yet.
Okay, but the prosecutor had them arrested, right? The
police. A police officer arrested somebody.
But
have you ever been arrested?
But the prosecutor's office does order the arrests, right?
No, a police officer could arrest you right now.
They can arrest you. They saw
arrested?
you doing a crime. Yes, I know. I have not been arrested.
Okay. I mean, it's just the police officer's decision to arrest. That's
maybe the system changed a lot since I was younger. But when I was younger, things have changed a lot. And again, I'm not running on a federal level. I'm running here on a county. So I don't want to say things that might be incorrect. But in my opinion, I think the detainer request should have been honored for those 36 people and any future. Detainer requests,
even the ones with no conviction, even ones who just
until Congress and Senate reform the law, because they're our elected officials in the federal government. They need to reform the law. I urge everyone to go out, Charlie, including you and me. Go out to the senators and Congress, and I think you have gone to Senator Pallone's office many times. Okay, Congressman Pallone's office many times. I think we need to go out to these people and tell them we need the immigration laws reformed. Okay, they need to step up the game. Okay, and I'm not talking about just Democrats or I'm talking about every single congressman and senator. We have Republican and Democrat senators and congressmen in this state. Go to them. I'm sorry, no senators, but congressmen, Republican congressmen and senators and Democrat senators. In this state, we need to go out and ask them for this immigration reform.
Okay. We're running short on time. I want to get a couple more questions. No,
please go ahead. Yeah.
President Trump, you're behind him. You support him.
I support his policies. I think one of his policies is the tax reform. I think it will help the middle class. Now, I will say this, though, so don't get me wrong. I know that everyone's worried about the tax reductions for the property tax. Some people will get hurt, unfortunately, because our property taxes are very high in
New Jersey. It'll affect us negatively.
It will affect us. It will affect some people negatively. Those renting are not going to be affected, and those who have lower property taxes in different towns might not be affected. It does look like a 15% decrease on income taxes, though, so that's one of the reasons I support it. The other thing is, I think his main agenda is to make America as competitive as some of the countries around the world when it comes to businesses. A lot of people are saying that his businesses are going to benefit the most, the richest. But I think that business, if you look in other parts of the world, there's a lot of businesses that are opening up in other countries because their taxes are lower, and that encourages more growth and employment. We need employment. Now, this morning, I think the unemployment rate went down to 4.1%. That's huge. And I think he has a lot to do with it, especially with his policies in the Midwest, where, you know, he had talked to Carrier, and I think he talked to businesses just this week and had them keep jobs here or bring jobs here. These are the policies I support with Donald Trump, and this is why he had my vote. I think the United States economy can benefit from a man who he himself has done a great job in his businesses. Now, not all his businesses succeeded, not 100% of them, but the ones that are succeeding, they're doing a great job, and that's just why he's a rich guy. I mean,
So, you're at all concerned about the 2 indictments and the guilty plea this week?
No,
Involving
of
his
course I am.
campaign?
I wish we found out about that campaign manager before he became a campaign manager, because those actions were done before the campaign. And I don't know about Polomina yet. I haven't read about.
There were things in the
yet.
indictment 2016, 2017.
I haven't read about Polomina yet, but the campaign
You know,
manager.
Polomina's not who we're talking about.
No, sorry, not Polomina. The
Papadopoulos.
Papadopoulos. Yeah, I haven't read about him yet, and
He pled guilty to lying to the FBI.
Yeah, I didn't read
so,
all the details,
you know,
but I know the
speaking of
campaign manager.
indictments and criminals, you know, these folks have been accused of very serious crimes, conspiracy against the United
And I
States.
think they should pay for their crimes.
Okay,
I believe that
do
everyone
you
should
at
pay
all-
for their crimes.
Do you at all question the president's judgment putting somebody like that in charge of his campaign and having folks like that who would lie?
The problem is, Charlie. Let's be realistic. How do we know he knew? You might tell me, oh, you believe he knew, but how do I know he knew that this his campaign manager was helping the Russians in some way or another?
I mean, wouldn't you expect a good candidate or a good president to, you know, do his homework, research, and make sure he knew what his people were up to?
From a regular politician.
It's a leadership.
From a
thing.
regular politician, yes. Donald Trump is not a regular politician. Look at how many people came and left the campaign in the middle of it. He picked people that might have not been good for campaigning. There's a reason for that. He's not a politician. Okay, I think he doesn't know as much as politics as President Obama, President Bush. Okay, and I think that was a mistake on his part. But I would like to give him a chance, and I think everyone should give him a chance, and we should help our president succeed here in this country rather than fail. Because if he fails, we are the ones that end up looking bad. All of America looks bad to the world, and the world will never have respect for us again. Okay, so that's my issue.
Okay.
He's not a regular politician, and that's why I stand by him and give him a chance.
And how about the governor, Christie? You think he did a good job? I know you're supporting his lieutenant to replace him. What are your thoughts
Up
on
until a
Governor
year
Christie?
ago, Christie was the bomb. Okay, he helped in Sandy a lot. He vetoed so many bills that the legislator sent to his desk to raise taxes across the board. I think they said it was like 111 or 112 in 8 years or something. He vetoed all the tax increase bills that were put on his desk. So I would definitely
Except the
give him,
gas tax.
Yeah, and that's an issue I totally disagree with him on. I wish the lieutenant governor had power. She even herself said she would have loved to walk in and veto that bill. Okay, it would have, definitely totally against it. I believe they had 2 options on the table: the legislature, and one is to consolidate resources from the Garden State and New Jersey Turnpike, and they chose not to. They chose rather to raise the gas tax because it's a continuation where you can just keep raising it as you lose more money. The more you spend, you can keep raising, but if they consolidated Garden State and Turnpike, it would have just helped us in the short term. So, but I am 100% against the gas tax. It's another way to take money from the middle class.
Okay. Last question. You're from kind of the southern end of the county in Old Bridge. What can people in New Brunswick expect you to do for us here? If you get on the Freeholder board, what role is the county going to play in New Brunswick? They're often involved in big projects. It's the county seat. What do you want to see in New Brunswick? What would you do for the people in New Brunswick?
New Brunswick is. I feel like New Brunswick, the one-party Freeholder board that's been running it for 21 years, they haven't done a good job with New Brunswick. Like for instance, I will tell you the apartment complex that they're building, the 22-story that they're supporting, that they're funding.
New Brunswick Performing Arts Center.
Yeah. One, I believe, you can correct me on this, Charlie, you know better than I do, I think they used eminent domain to take away the 2 theaters?
No, they did not.
They did not. Okay, good. Okay, because I think that was mentioned at the Freeholder board before, so I just wanted to clarify that. Building an apartment complex reduces the education level in New Brunswick, and I'm going to tell you why. It overflows the schools. That is my main concern. You build an apartment complex, you overflow the schools. What happens after that? The property taxes go up because the education board has to follow their rules and guidelines. So now they have to
educate everybody.
And they have to expand the schools.
I understand, but how's the county going to grow if you can't build housing?
Well, no,
I know you're against apartment
build,
complexes.
Build housing. Do you have me? Don't take me wrong. No, build housing, but in places where the schools can afford the overflow, the extra people.
Where would that be?
That's something we have to research. And right now, there's a lot of towns in Middlesex County that are fighting apartment complexes because their schools are overflowing already, and their property taxes skyrocketing. But we need to find logical places, and we need to communicate with the Board of Ed and the towns before we build apartment complex. Just remember, an apartment complex, Charlie, doesn't only bring problems with education. It brings problems with our property taxes. It brings problems with the overall traffic in the area. Okay, that was, I think, a main concern also that was talked about. New Brunswick has traffic sometimes. You now increase it. You also increase pollution because those cars stand there and they just let out a lot of carbons out in the air while they're standing there. So these are issues people have to take in consideration, and also garbage. We didn't even talk about garbage. How about that's more garbage that we're gonna throw out? We had problems with garbage in this county already. I think the mayor here. Was it the mayor here, or maybe I believe the mayor in one of our towns had a problem with garbage. I think it was here.
There's certainly a litter problem here, but
so
at the end of the day, what can we expect you to do different? So, like, you're telling us you wouldn't do the New Brunswick Performing Arts Center, you wouldn't chip in for that, you wouldn't help that project happen. What would you actually do?
I would have taken the New Brunswick Performing Arts Center and rebuilt it as a New Brunswick Performing Arts Center, not an apartment complex, a place where people can get to go to with programs and activities for the entire county. I think it would have encouraged business here. It would have made people come here more often from the county. A lot of people don't visit New Brunswick from this county. They don't even drive this way.
But that's not going to happen because they're already building what they're building. What are you going to do? What might we expect to actually see if you're elected?
Well, since the Performing Arts Center is gone, I would try to find a place to build one. That's my first thing. I would like to encourage business here, and I think that's one way of doing it. The other thing is we have a lot of storefronts in New Brunswick. I actually was looking this up. I Googled this literally. 78 storefronts empty in New Brunswick. All right, we need to do something to encourage people to open here. We need to find ways to reduce rent and reduce traffic and allow people, parking spots in front of business. One of the business owners that used to have a business here, he said, "There's no parking in front of my business." Things like this need to be addressed. We need to encourage business. Actually, New Brunswick needs to be cleaned up too. There's some of the streets. I drive down New Brunswick, and I feel like even the street where the administrative building is all the way down. Look at the street. It's broken up. There's litter on the ground. I've seen this, and I wish I took pictures for you to see, but we can clean all this up, clean up all of New Brunswick, make it attractive. We want to attract outsiders, people from outside the county to come in and spend their money here and enjoy New Brunswick here and help the residents and support our businesses. That's what we want. Middlesex County businesses is what we need to support. Middlesex County middle class is what we need to support. And I will call out one thing though. I've made it very clear, and this was in the last meeting. I've made it clear that Penrose is being supported. I found 10.
This is the developer Penrose Properties.
Yes, the ones that are actually working on that cultural center, I believe, unless I'm mistaken. They are not even from the state. So I Googled property management companies and development companies, that do both. Here in Middlesex County, I found 10. Okay, just by Googling them in this county. Why aren't we supporting them? Why are we not supporting them? Why aren't we supporting the local businesses here rather than letting them suffer or close down? We need to come up with solutions to help people in Middlesex County. I told you this in the beginning. I want Middlesex County to be a place where people want to move in, not move out. Okay, and we are having this problem. People are moving out of New Jersey every month. Okay, I think last year it was 18,000 on average a month, was it? It was about that much. So it's very sad. It's very sad, and this is a very beautiful, diverse county, and I love it. And I intend to stay here for many years to come.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Mina Colta wants to be your Middlesex County freeholder. Again, that election is Tuesday, November 7th. We've got a couple more interviews with candidates who want to represent you at the Middlesex County level this morning, so stay tuned and we'll be right back with another interview. Thanks again. And welcome back, New Brunswick. This is Charlie Cradaville on the New Brunswick Today show, interviewing candidates running at the Middlesex County level into Tuesday, November 7th election. I'm now joined by Priti Pandya Patel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us on.
Of course. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Is this your first time running for anything? Or...
It is, technically.
Okay. Tell me more. What made you want to do this?
So, well, you asked me if this is my first time running. So a quick story is that in 1987, I was president of the Political Science Club, and my advisor, Mr. Fulcomer, actually had me as a Union County freeholder nominee.
So you ran for freeholder?
Honorary freeholder.
Oh,
I was an
okay.
honorary freeholder in Union County in 1987. I was in the Star Ledger.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
So you're from Union County originally?
Originally from Union County, yep.
And tell me, where in Middlesex County do you hail from? And tell me
So
about
currently I'm in Old Bridge.
Okay.
I was, right after I got married, I did live in Dayton, South Brunswick. Started there and then went back up to Union County when I had my kids, and then decided to go back to Middlesex County in Old Bridge when my kids were in first grade. And they're in college now.
Oh, wow, cool.
2 kids in college, at Rutgers, actually.
And what made you want to run to be a freeholder here in Middlesex?
So I was actually encouraged by Senator, that's a current senator in New Jersey, and he encouraged me. I'm the president of the Asian Indian Chamber of Commerce, and he saw me speak at one of my meetings, and then he said, "How would you like to run for a freeholder?" And I looked at him, and I didn't think he was serious. And then next morning he said, "Hey, send me your resume, send me, I want you to run for this office." So I said, I need to think about it. I don't know if I'm ready for it. But then I went out there and I, had the screening, and my party nominated me unanimously. And so, I'm the type of person that once I know I'm in something, I usually give my 110%. So I just ran with it. Now I'm just going to do whatever I need to do to win.
Okay. Well, you are a Republican running in a very Democrat
Yes.
county. Tell me about your views on President Trump. Do you think he should be impeached and removed from office, or are you a believer, a supporter?
You know what? There's some things about him that I don't agree with, but the most important thing, I still feel like he knows what he's doing. And I think that if maybe whatever he is deciding that he wants to do, he has some plan behind it. And I just believe that he's done what he's done for all these years to be where he is as a millionaire, billionaire. So he might have some things up his sleeve that we don't really understand, and what he's doing and why he's doing. So that's all I have to say. I don't really think about Mr. Trump too much about anything.
Okay. Did you vote for him?
I did.
Okay. And how about Governor Christie? You happy with his service to the state of New Jersey, or?
I was a big supporter of his. in the beginning, and I think things that has happened in the past 6 months, year, I was disappointed.
Yeah. Will you be supporting his lieutenant governor to replace him?
Absolutely. You know, Lieutenant Governor, I'm in small business, and I've been in small business for many years. And she is a big proponent of small businesses. And, you know, she started the one-stop business office in Trenton. So, and she also started something called the Red Tape Committee.
Yes, Red Tape
and
Review Commission.
Review Commission. You know, that's really to help get through all this different regulations and, you know, whatever people of small business, nonprofits and for-profits have to get through. She started that. You know, so for me, I believe that she is really, you know, about helping people and wanting to have business and having small businesses here in New Jersey. And I think that's really important for our economy.
Well, let's talk about Middlesex County. If you should happen to win and get on the Freeholder board, what are you going to make your priorities? What do you think are the first kind of things that you would tackle?
Well, you know, the biggest thing that everybody talks about is property taxes, and I don't want to repeat what everybody else has said, but obviously property taxes have increased, you know, 200% in over 20 years. So that's just saying something about who the current people are in the office, you know, and what they're voting for. So that's really number one. I think if we try to merge some of those services, there's a lot of duplication of services, and I think if we merge some of them, we can look and we can analyze. And also there's a lot of expenditure that we need to analyze and see why we're spending so much on certain things that don't need to be.
Okay, like what kind of things would you want to cut back on or?
I think, well, you know, one of the things is like they're paying, you know, there's some bids on huge buildings that maybe are they necessary, are they not necessary, maybe those are the things we can look at. I'm in healthcare. I've been in healthcare for over 30 years, almost 30 years, I could say. And I also want to look at the healthcare spending. We have Roosevelt Hospital, that's a county hospital, subacute facility. There's one in Old Bridge.
The one in Old Bridge, yeah.
Yes.
They sold the other one, yeah.
Yes, so this one is in Old Bridge. And, you know, and then they have other clinics. They also have, I'm also a big advocate on substance abuse and opioid addiction. And so I do want to get involved in that. My business currently is in sleep diagnostics. And so one of the things that I've done research on, I have a master's in healthcare, an MBA in healthcare administration and a master's in psychology. And one of the things I did focus on is looking for root causes. And I want to look at root causes, and I want to be a big advocate and say, listen, there's reasons for these people to be on substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or drugs. There is a reason for it. So let's get to the root cause of it. Why is it happening? Is it because of pain? Is it because of sleep deprivation? Is it because of whatever it is? Let's get to that and then see. So these are some of the things that I want to do, is really focus on seeing if we could reduce some of those costs or see what we can do to improve. And also a big advocate of seniors. I've been working in the senior care and senior health, and there is a need for them as well. I mean, as I'm campaigning, the people that are the most affected are seniors, whether it's because of property taxes, where if they have to decide whether they want to pay for their prescription or they have to pay for property taxes because they have to live in their home, I think that's a shame. You know, so we need to look at that population as well, and I don't know if we are focusing on it. There's a lot of different, I mean, there's focuses on everything, but I think that is a focus. I mean, these people worked hard all their lives, and if they have to worry about something like this, I just feel so sorry for them.
I know you want to, cut back spending. You're concerned about spending, but is there any part of the county that you think you'd want to invest in more, or put more resources into?
I mean, I think that there's definitely problems with the roads, right?
Okay.
New Jersey and I'm in Middlesex County. I know that they are doing a lot of road reconstruction because there's so much traffic in Middlesex right now. They really have to try to figure out. I mean, to me, time is money, and if I'm doing something and I'm going somewhere, I'm losing money because I can't get to a meeting in time and I can't do it. I mean, this is constant. I'm Route 18. Just the traffic. I think that's something I want to look at is the roads. Is there what they are trying? I know they are trying to do something to improve them, but there might be something else. That
So transportation infrastructure.
Definitely.
Yeah, and do you support mass transit? You know, bus systems, train systems, getting people to use those?
I think so. I mean, hopefully that will be less cumbersome, but we need to have more routes. I mean, one of the things that going out campaigning, there are some routes like in Monroe, which is a Middlesex County town. People have come to me and said, what can we do about transportation? There's not enough transportation in Monroe, in some of those towns. So let's look at that too, because those are the people that are commuting to New York, but they're saying, if we have to drive 20 minutes to get to the train station or 20 minutes to catch a bus, might as well
just drive. Yeah.
Just drive. And that is what I'm hearing. The other thing I'm hearing about is the parks. Some people have talked about there's not enough bike trails in Middlesex County. I mean, maybe for us it may not be important, but the people that are bike riders, they are concerned about it. I have several people come to me and say, can you help us get some bike trails? We have to go to the neighboring counties to visit a lot more bike trails there. So.
Tell me, you're from the southern end of the county, Old Bridge. What would you do that we might notice here in New Brunswick if you get on the Freeholder board? What are you going to do for the people here? Most of our audience is local here.
You mean in terms of what?
Like just a random person in New Brunswick, what would they notice different if you're on the Freeholder board? What kinds of things might we see the county doing here?
Yeah, you know what? I think that one thing is I come with a high energy. I come with a lot of business background. I come from a healthcare background. I am a people person, so they'll definitely see me out there. I don't see that many freeholders out there currently in the community. I am in the community. I've been in the community for over 20 years, and especially in the South Asian community. And I want to be a voice for people. So they will see a voice. And I think sometimes there are things that need to be changed, but when you're at a certain level, if you don't go into the community and find out really what's going on, then you can't make any changes. So that's what I want to do. I want to be out there. They're going to see more of me out there being an advocate for the county residents. I think that's the most important thing that I can do. And then bring it back to the board and say, hey, listen, I'm hearing there's a problem here and a problem here and a problem here. What can we do? Because I don't think that's being addressed.
Now, you mentioned healthcare a couple of times. It's your field. Sometimes people refer to New Brunswick as the healthcare city. Healthcare has been a big topic of discussion at the national level with attempts to repeal President Obama's healthcare plan. And I'm just curious, where do you fall on that? Do you support the repeal efforts that have been happening? Do you think the system is better than it was a few years ago, or worse? What do you think?
Yeah. So, it started with Clinton healthcare reform. Can I talk about that a little bit? So Clinton healthcare reform came about in 1996. About 1996 it came out. And I remember because I was working in a subacute rehab facility, and I was on maternity leave, came back from maternity leave in 97. I think that's around the time that it happened. It came back in 98 after I had my daughter, and everything changed. Okay, PPS, which is Prospective Payment Systems, that came in the subacute rehab facility. He's changed a lot of things, where it's more like Medicare, it's more like the insurance companies are dictating what a patient should receive and should not receive. And I think that's a shame, because if these healthcare reforms, I was actually excited about Obama at one time and said, oh, okay, a lot more people are going to have insurance. Right?
And that's true, right? A lot more people do.
No, they do. But you know what? Nobody wants to use that insurance. Do you know why? Because their deductibles are too high. Their co-payments are too high. They're out-of-network, so they're actually paying a lot more. Premiums are too high. They're paying more than if they didn't even have insurance and they could just pay the doctor whatever they need to. Half the services they're not even using that they're paying for. So the thing is that what Obama did, what Clinton healthcare reform did, what they did was they looked at one part of it. They never looked at the providers. I think if they looked at the providers, the people that are actually taking care of the patient, and saying, because essentially what happened was they cut all this stuff, all the healthcare insurances and things for patients, but they also, because for the providers, they've cut a lot of our reimbursements. if they cut the reimbursements for providers, we have to maintain the same standard of care. So we're not able to give the same amount of care to a person with less amount, because we still have to have the same nursing staff and whatever all the requirements that we have. We have to still sustain the same standards, yet get paid a lot less. Imagine you getting paid and coming in and saying, hey, I want you to work just as hard as you do, but tomorrow I'm going to give you a pay cut. That's what happened with Clinton healthcare reform. I got a $25,000 pay cut, and that's why I decided to leave the physical therapy field in 1989 after I had my son. I left because I was being dictated about what I should do about a patient, because I came into the field, the healthcare field, to take care of people, because that's my passion.
Well, I mean, what do you think is the solution? Because, obviously Trump and the Republicans, your party, have been trying to just get rid of Obamacare no matter what, even if there's nothing to replace it. You've got other people on the other end saying that we should open up Medicare to everybody and have, essentially, free health care for everybody. Have it be a right to health care. What do you think is the solution?
Yeah, so, I think there's a balance. I really do think there's a balance. I think that with this whole Trump, there's some things about Obamacare that are actually good.
Sure.
But you have to think about the patient. I think there's a balance. You think about the patient and how it's going to help the patient. Preventative care is very good. If you have a past medical history, some insurance companies are saying, hey, we're not going to accept you because you had either cancer or you had some other
pre-existing
conditions,
bad
right?
Yeah.
Bad thing. But because you know what, if you don't take care of those patients, guess what? They're going to come back and they're going to be indigent, and their healthcare costs are going to go up again. So some of those things with Obamacare, I think they're good.
So you wouldn't want to see those thrown away?
I don't want to see those. But what I would like to do is do a reform and look at the providers. I always say that. If you look at the person, the physician, the hospital, the caretaker, I'm in sleep diagnostics, I've done physical things. Look at us. Look at what we can do to help the patients. If you can look at, give us some support, because people are not giving us, they look at us as a provider. But you know what, at the end of the day, it's still a business. And you're cutting down on our business. And we can't take care of a patient the way we want to. So I think that there's definitely a balance, and if they allow us to look at both parts of it, there's three aspects of healthcare. There's the insurance aspect of it, the provider aspect of it, and the patient aspect of it. And I think they need to look at all three, and then reform each one differently.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Priti Pandya Patel, running to be one of your Middlesex County freeholders. Again, this election is open to everybody in the county. All 25 towns will be voting on Tuesday, November 7th. So no matter who you're voting for, make sure you get out there and vote. We've got one more great interview coming up for you, so stay tuned. We'll be right back with the New Brunswick Today Show.
Thank you.
It's very good. Thank you. And welcome back to the New Brunswick Today Show, special election edition. I am now joined by candidate for Middlesex County Surrogate, Kareem Nicola. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me, Charlie. I really appreciate it.
So, most people probably don't even know what the surrogate is or does, right?
Sure.
Especially if you're young and you haven't had to take advantage of the services. Tell us, what does the county surrogate do?
Sure. So we do the probate process for wills. So as far as the probate process is concerned, processing the probate process, that's the one thing that they do, as well as the child custody cases. So they handle child custody cases, they handle estate taxes, they handle inheritance tax. So it's basically a position that should have been appointed by the court, but now it's a
It's an elected
it's an
office.
elected
But you
position.
believe it shouldn't be.
No, I do believe that it is. It's just because the Superior Court for New Jersey has a lot of responsibilities and a lot of tasks that it has to do, so that's why they dedicated the surrogate's office for it.
Okay. Tell us, why do you want to be the surrogate? What made you,
Sure.
wake up one morning and decide you wanted to run?
Yeah, so I don't have any grandparents left. I come from a finance background, so I look at cost savings and budget savings all the time. Right now I'm currently working in Edison, which is right around the corner from here, where I'm working as a senior analyst in Revlon. So I know the current surrogate, they've been in office for 25 years. There's a lot of issues when it comes to the estate tax and the inheritance tax and also the probate process. So I don't have any grandparents left, and a lot of people have come up to me and said, I can't get my will passed because they're now vouching the signatures. I call the surrogate's office, nothing's happening. I have to pay out-of-pocket expenses to a private firm to get it done because the surrogate's office won't help me with the matter.
So you've actually personally had problems with the surrogate's office?
Not me personally, but
helping others.
I'm helping others, right? So that's why I decided, if you want action, you have to do it yourself, and that's why I decided to run. So even though I'm a fairly new candidate, a new age group, I decided to run for the
Sure, and
position.
it's your first time running for anything,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
What will you do differently than the current surrogate, who, like you pointed out, has been there for decades? What changes would people expect to see if they're familiar with the office?
Sure. So the major changes would be working with the Freeholder board. So normally right now in the Freeholder meetings, I know yourself, I've been to a lot of those Freeholder meetings, I would be very actively involved working with the Freeholder setting the budget. Because a lot of people are not aware that the Freeholder board is the one who sets the budget for the surrogate's office. So one of the things I'd be looking to initiate would be even take a tax cut on the surrogate's salary just to save taxpayers funding.
So you would lower your salary?
Yes, I would. I would take a jump if I need to.
Well,
because I want to save the taxpayers money.
What will the salary be that you'll have?
That's still up in the air. Obviously, I'll discuss that. When the time comes. If I'm elected, if I'm lucky enough to be elected for the position.
Sure.
But the other things I would be setting the budget because there's a lot of wasteful spending right now in Middlesex specifically. So I'd be looking to target those.
And how big is the budget for the surrogate?
The budget on hand, it keeps going up. There's been incremental changes. The last few months has gone. Last few years have gone up about 100,000 each year, but it's really not transparent. When you were looking for the surrogate's office budget, you have to fill an opera request, and there's a lot of hidden fees, hidden motives in the surrogate's office. So that's something I really want to target.
So is it $1 million, $2 million? What's the budget?
For the last figures, it was upwards of close to $1 million. I would have to say something at that point. But don't state me on that. But those were the last sources that I've looked at. So.
Okay. And do you know what the current salary is for the surrogate?
Right. The current salary is about $175,000.
Okay. And so you said you won't take that full salary.
That's
You'll
correct.
take a discounted, like, what are we talking? Half price discount or 10%? You're running. This is a campaign promise you're making.
Let me keep you in suspense on, but I'm definitely going to be cutting a percentage of the salary. So because I just feel like with that position, considering you have to do a lot of work with the freeholders to begin with. Especially targeting estate taxes, inheritance taxes. Right now, people don't know that when they have the interview on the surrogate's website, just give me one second.
Go ahead.
The person who's interviewing the surrogate is Rios, who's also the president of the freeholders, and they're from the same party, so there's a conflict of interest. So I want to make it very transparent office, show people like, here's my salary, here's what the budget is, and have everything on paper. So people don't have to go fidgeting to looking for information.
You mentioned the estate tax and
Inheritance
and
tax.
the sort of inheritance tax. What role are you going to have with? I mean, you're not going to repeal the tax,
No, of
right?
course
So,
not.
so what difference are you going to make as far as the estate tax go? Why do you mention that?
Right. I would work with both sides of the aisle, which would be the Dems and the Republicans, to get it passed, as well as the freeholders,
To get what passed?
to lower the inheritance tax and lower the estate taxes for people.
So you're talking about doing that at the state level, the federal
On the
level?
county level, because I'm only running for the
County
position.
level.
Yes.
But
But also,
but is that's not something the county can do, right? The estate tax is it's like a federal thing, isn't it?
well, I mean, you would have to look at it from a statutory level, from a state level, right? So I'd work with all the local officials, the assemblymen, the senators, the governor, and then I would work on on negotiating that.
But you want it
down.
lower.
Absolutely.
You want it lowered.
Absolutely.
Isn't it true that the estate tax, as it is now, only applies to very wealthy folks who pass away? You know, folks with more than like $500,000.
It's true. It's true. But at the same time, these are, the small percentage of the county, right? They're like the less than 1%. But those people are also, they give more in property taxes because they're taxed on a higher basis. So if we lower estate taxes for them, that's more revenue for the state. So that's what.
If you lower the taxes on them, wouldn't it be less revenue for the state?
Well, no, because they're going to end up paying more in taxes. So
What taxes will they be paying more?
property taxes, state taxes, local taxes.
Will their property taxes go up because the estate tax is lower? That doesn't make sense.
No. I mean, they're going to have more money to circulate back in the economy for Middlesex County.
Okay, but not taxes. They'll be able to spend it on whatever they want.
Sure.
And it might not.
Ultimately, it'll be buying more of goods, buying more
So-
of services, which results in more revenue for the state.
Okay. But so lowering the estate tax will ultimately mean in that first year there'll be less money.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Where are you going to make up for it if you actually achieve this and you actually get the estate tax lowered? Rich people are going to be paying a lot less money when they pass away.
Right.
Where are you going to get the money to make up for it?
You're going to reinvest it in the economy, which is starting by lowering property taxes, and that's something that I've worked with my candidates on.
But wouldn't that mean even less money?
No, because even though there's less property taxes coming in. When you have more money to spend, you can spend it back into the economy. That's my point. You have more money. Yes, the state right now is getting less taxes, but if you have more money, they're going to reinvest. Jobs are going to be back here. People are going to come back into the state. They're not going to leave the state to go to New York or outside states. That's the whole point. Is that you want people to have an initiative and incentive to actually put money back into the economy. So you have to lower taxes. Okay, you just don't keep taxing people at a very high rate, and then and then you say, oh, well, we don't have any money left in the state.
What would you say to somebody who doesn't have a lot of money and they view your plan to lower the estate tax as a gift to really wealthy people who are the only people who are paying it right now? So you're basically you're going to let them off the hook for some of their obligation that exists now. What would you say to somebody who doesn't have $500,000 to give to their children when they pass away?
Sure, I would say that there's going to be more money in your pocket, so that starts by lowering taxes, like we were talking about before, lowering property taxes. But it's about targeting every demographic in New Jersey, which is from your rich people, your middle class people. It's not about just taxing across broad in every category, right? It's about finding ways. That's why I'm talking about cost-saving initiatives. That's where I come from, the world I come from. It's evaluating the whole process on a macro level to see where we can get that money from, that revenue from.
I want to talk
ultimately what it comes down to, Charlie, is if people have more money in their pocket, they're going to be reinvesting back in the economy, which results in more sales tax, more.
But if it's rich people that have more money in their pockets, they might just not spend it. They might just keep it, right?
Yeah, but they own businesses, they own infrastructure. They're the ones who run the state. I mean, let's be honest. I'm a middle class person. I don't really have much say when it comes to opening a new theater or doing a renovation in Rutgers University where we are now. I don't have that sort of say, right? But if someone who's rich, now they have more money in their pocket because I'm lowering the estate tax for them, right, or the inheritance tax.
Right. Well, it makes it more likely they'll hold on to the money so that they can give it to their kids,
not
right?
Necessarily.
Not
necessarily.
Well, let's just move on. I want to
Sure.
talk about a very important issue, not just in New Jersey, all over: guardianship abuse.
Sure.
What are your views on the guardianship system as it is, and what, if any, what changes might you want to make?
It's about holding everything accountable. So it's really doing an audit on the guardianship abuse. It's when we have those kids and we put them in a guardianship program to really look.
I'm not even necessarily talking about kids. I'm talking about sometimes like senior citizens who get, your office is in charge of, or the office you're running for would be in charge of basically deciding which lawyers are allowed to take over these people's lives. And it's a very serious matter where some lawyers in New Jersey have been caught, taking advantage of these senior citizens, taking advantage of people who might not be mentally sound or stable, and using it to just take their money from them. What are you going to do to stop those predator lawyers, some of which I believe are doing it right here in Middlesex County?
Absolutely. I'm going to hold everybody accountable. I'm going to look at all the law firms, and I'm going to really dig in and make sure that they're doing their job properly, which is going through a thorough audit, going through a thorough evaluation. That's the way to get it done. Because a lot of times you give these money for the guardianship, like you mentioned, to look over the senior citizens, and then nobody does any sort of accountability or follow-up afterwards.
Right. And it's very hard to do that type of accountability because the process is not transparent. In most states, including New Jersey, a private citizen can't find out who is a ward of the state and who their guardian is.
Right.
It's secret.
Right.
So would that be something you would support changing? Would you support having it be on a matter of public record which lawyers are representing, which lawyers are
Absolutely.
guardians? Okay.
The whole process from this, what I've been running on, my mission statement is making the process transparent, from everything from the budget to the salary to the guardianship to estate and inheritance tax. Everything has to be visible, and that's something that's not happening right now in Middlesex County.
Okay. Your opponent boasts about the number of satellite offices they've opened up for the Surrogate's office. They have the headquarters here in New Brunswick, but over the past 10 or 20 years, they've established, they call them satellite offices, in many different towns in the county. Is that something you think it was a good idea? Is that something you should do more of, or is it something that you would actually shut down some of these satellite offices?
No, I wouldn't shut down satellite offices because they serve a purpose. So because some people, they have to travel. And if they don't live, close to New Brunswick, there's a satellite office that are next to them, and then they send in their appointee, right, to work out the paperwork. I'd be looking for making the process, streamlining the process, which would be opening more satellite offices, but also evaluating the current satellite offices. So if there's any satellite offices that aren't working on full capacity, we'd have to look into that.
Okay. Well, we're running short on time, but I have to ask, since you're a Republican,
Sure.
What are your views on the president? Are you concerned about these indictments? Do you think the president might need to be impeached and removed from office?
I mean, really, what it ultimately comes down to is a democracy, and I'm really looking to what I can help for the taxpayers. People have voted. I don't really want to get into specifics because that's something I'm going to be able to change right now. What I'm really looking for is to talk to the taxpayers of Middlesex to tell them that things are going to change. So that's about lowering property taxes, more transparency, lowering estate and inheritance tax, and getting more money back in the economy.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but he is the leader of your party.
Sure.
So, do you think he's doing a good job? Do you think he's doing a bad job? Are you, is he hurting the Republican Party with the way he's running the presidency?
Well, like I said before, that's not something that I really want to get into, just because that's in the past. The election cycle was last year. In 3 years,
well, he's the president now for the next 4 years.
Yes,
so, what do you
absolutely.
think of him? Is he doing a good job or not?
Well, like I just stated before, he's the people have voted from last election cycle, but I'm not really here to talk about what the current administration is or what the current governor is doing. What I'm talking about specifically is what I can do for the county, which is running on my agenda and my platform. That's what I'm here really to talk about.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mr. Nicola. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kareem Nicola. He wants to be your next county surrogate here in Middlesex County. Again, all 25 towns have the right to vote in this upcoming election on Tuesday, November 7th. So no matter who you're voting for, make sure you get out there and vote. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to have some interviews tomorrow with additional candidates that will be on your ballot. So make sure you tune in, New Brunswick. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks.